Hi, and welcome to Auxano Bytes. With a growing number of platforms to relate to consumers, we finally took the plunge of going the extra mile by deep diving into the world of podcasts. Before we begin, a small insight into what Auxano does. Auxano is a venture capital firm focused on investing in growth stage businesses. We began our journey in 2016 with an aim to enable and empower an entrepreneur's vision and were registered under SEBI as an AIF Cat 1 Angel Fund in 2019. In a short span of 4 years, we have made investments across various industries with the target of diversifying our portfolio and achieving a holistic growth. With a sector agnostic investment approach, we target to invest in companies that are at revenue generation stage with a scalable business model and backed by a strong founding team. With a deep skin in the game, we strive to drive growth in our portfolio companies and increase our investors' wealth. With the onset of a new financial year, we bring bigger and better investment opportunities to build businesses for the world and be a part of the India growth story. In our episode today, I, Swadha, with my colleague Karan, would be sitting down for a conversation with someone we both admire and respect for his drive to turn his vision into a reality. An entrepreneur himself, he believes that true growth lies in empowering people to achieve their entrepreneurial dream. Today we have with us Mr. Brijesh Damodaran Nair, the founding partner at Auxano. A qualified chartered accountant, Brijesh has garnered corporate experience of over 2 decades working with leading companies in India that are spanned across multiple industries. Post which, he embarked on his entrepreneurial journey within the wealth management space in late 2009, during the course of which he identified the need to enhance the investment opportunities to his clients. Looking at the growing startup ecosystem in India, he knew that that's where the true growth of our economy lies, which led to the inception of Auxano. He's always been a strong believer in the entrepreneurial way of doing and discovering things. Well, what does that even mean? Let's ask the man himself. Welcome, sir. It's a pleasure to have you with us on this platform.
Thank you, Sudha. The pleasure is mine too.
So, sir, let's start from the very beginning. They say there are certain defining moments in our lives that shape and mold us into what we are today. What would you say would that moment be for you?
So it's like a chain of events per se. There's no specific event per se, I would say, but there was always this thing in the back of the mind, as in the corporate world, that you need to do something of your own. You need to be an entrepreneur. Like India is a nation of traders that it began, and this entrepreneurial bug was there from right from the beginning. So we decided that I decided mentally that at least when I'm 35, I should enter into the entrepreneurial stage, because if not then it will be never. So that's how the whole thing began.
The journey as a entrepreneur is full of challenges and hard times. And while the journey in a corporate is fairly more cushy. So, what made you actually take this leap?
So the thing is that uh, whatever thing you start or begin with, you should not have the fear. Like you have a stepney in the car. In life, you don't get too many stepneys. No, you should not begin the life with a stepney. There has to be a focused, single approach. That's where, you know, when Alexander told his soldiers that you burn your boats, and if you have to go back to Greece, you have to build a new boat. So if you singularly and in a very focused manner, look into this is the only option and there is no other option, then you all your energies are concentrated, so all your potential energy is at one place, and all of that then directly flow into the kinetic form, and then things happen. So the most important thing is you have got to believe in yourself. That is the most, and that is your biggest card. That is your biggest wealth. That is your biggest early stage capital, if you can say that. And being realistic, and most importantly, belief in yourself. And as you start, you should always keep your, your close family to appraise them. This is what it would be like, and you should then go ahead. So it should not be a dramatic, or or for that matter, if I don't have this, I have something else. There is nothing else. There's only one thing, and then life becomes easy. Then your attention, focus, energy is all is in a very firm, focused attention to the goal.
Right, sir. But sir, don't you feel that when you start as an entrepreneur, there are a lot of challenges that you have to kind of go through? And I believe that getting the first break is the toughest of them all. So, how would you describe your experience when you landed that first investment for Auxano?
So okay, fine. The Auxano was much easier. Let me put it that way. But to before Auxano, when you actually became an entrepreneur, I didn't have any income from my business for more than 6 months. So, but at the same point of time, I had enough capital to last me for 18 months. So that I ensured myself that I'm not changing my lifestyle. If I don't have anything for the next 18 months, max. But what happened in the first 6 months were, you knew what you wanted to do, you are sharpening the saws, you are meeting people, people are gauging you, all of that, come into place. And I have to thank, my family, I have to thank some of my early stage investors who were also, the friends to start with. And also, uh, let me say, strangers who have become clients and good friends now who actually believe in us. So that's where the wealth management business took out, as an independent entity, and then we merged and became Bellwether, and then through Bellwether, Auxano came into play. So there is a pre-Auxano history which is very important when we talk about Auxano. So that's where I would say. So once the wealth management piece came into play, Auxano was much easier.
So I think that was good to know about the pre-Oxano part. That was something interesting which we were fairly less aware of. So when you started off in this journey and you said about landing your first clients in your wealth management experience, that was something which was far more tough. So what have been your learnings in terms of starting up and in terms of interacting with the initial clients, onboarding them, and then you also mentioned you have them now as your good friends. So the biggest part over here is the retention. So what have been your learnings across the journey?
So the most important part is, be consistent. Be true to what you know. If you don't know something, you say you don't know, but I will get to understand and go forward. If you have messed up and goofed up, own up the responsibility, and see to it that if you can rectify it. If not, do everything in your capacity and potential to undo it in whatever forms and whatever manners. So when you display that in a consistent manner, what would happen is that you know everyone whom you interact with, you know, will actually will will give you support, encouragement, and at the same point of time, trust their hard-earned monies or their corpus, give introductions, and that's it. So there is no rocket science. It's the elementary basic stuff which you have to do regularly and consistently, and that's it.
So very interesting on regularly and consistency. So we see that you have an obsession for processes. Across the team, across whatever work we do, it's always been processes, processes, processes. So just if you can help us understand that how processes help an entrepreneur and an organization, and especially most of the time we see that people think about the short term. So if you can give us some understanding of how the processes in the longer run actually come into the picture.
So long term is made up of multiple short terms, right? So if you say it's all connecting the dots. So when you undertake a task, whatever task it is, how menial or how complicated or complex it is, if you can break into parts, And that is where process comes to play. So if you know that in a certain task has to be done in a certain manner, and if that part is going to be done repeatedly, over the period of time which you will be doing it, then always better to have processes. Because when you have processes, you want to say anyone should be able to do, you know by reading that or by applying that, so that person by himself is not a roadblock for undertaking an activity. So when you have processes, the outcomes can also be fairly be known. Okay, if I follow, you know, process A to B, then goes to B to C and C to D, it also gives confidence uh, to the team. It also gives confidence to the investors whom we are dealing with. It will also give confidence to the entire ecosystem, whom we are dealing with, because they can understand, they know what is to be, what we can expect. So that is where, if you see, I think everybody of us, many of us, have, flew, gone on an airplane. So when you fly an airplane, the pilot at every single, before every single flight, does a checklist. What is that? It's again a process. Though it, see, and he does not miss any single, you know, process in that. If you say step one, step two, step three, it doesn't go from step three to step two, and then go to step two to step four, unless until it is mentioned in the process. So this ensures that, most importantly, that there are no unpleasant surprises, and we don't want unpleasant surprises. So that is where, having processes is the most important part. By having processes, you can have more predictable outcomes, which are not in our control many a times. But at the same point of time, processes ensure that you don't do anything uh, out of place, so where your outcomes can go wrong, or you miss those outcomes.
So again, like being associated with you, we have seen that having a process-oriented approach does help us in streamlining our efficiency and productivity in the long run and the short run. So, sir, moving forward to the Indian startup ecosystem, at Auxano, we review multiple opportunities that we come across. So, what is it that Auxano looks for when we are reviewing opportunities? What is it that the thing that kind of makes us say that yes, this is it, that this is where I want to put my money in?
See, I think this is my favorite line, which you all know. We have the inquisitiveness of a 12-year-old kid. So, what does that mean? It does fairly means that, help me understand what you do, how you do, where you do, what could be the revenue, what is the carrot, what is the stick, in a very elementary, simple layman terms, without using jargons. If you can, so that also is an opportunity for any, an opportunity which comes to us, wherein, are they able to articulate it, or they are able to put forth to it, or is it only a helicopter view? We don't want that. Everybody can talk from 36th floor looking down, but can you also, be on the ground floor, and have the vision, the courage, the ability, the competency, the capability to build your own tower? So that is where, we talk about. So if you see in our portfolio, we have, so when we started with the e-commerce platform, which was pretty new uh, to the ecosystem, and then, the first investment in the fund was in a genomics company. So it's very vastly different. If you look at our overall portfolio, the only common thread which we will find is that how it is linked, like connecting the dots. Have we understood, or are we still understanding the same thing, as a 12-year-old kid understand? So we are still, the school boys. So school boys and school girls. So when in school, you're learning every single point of time, and as do more, and as you understand the things more, you realize what not to do, and that has helped us today to make more effective, decisions when we review the, where to invest and where not to invest.
So, but learnings come in two sides. We kind of develop, if for a lack of a better word, a checklist of things that we do look for, and some things that we feel we want to steer ourselves away from. So, what are the things that make you steer away from an investment opportunity?
Okay, so there has to be a skin in the game, by the company which we are planning to invest or even having to look. As you know, over a period of time, we have said that there has to be three touch points, and within three touch points, we have to decide whether we will go ahead, by with to the company to get an opportunity whether we want to invest or the term sheet or not. And this is simply because we respect the timelines of our, the founders who are looking for capital, and also our times because it is very important. So, is the pitch or is the opportunity we are looking at in sync with it? Other thing which we also look into is that are we able to connect to and relate, and that is very important. So besides or besides the checklist which is there, there are intangibles which is there. So if you see till date, we have met every single founder one on one. So even when the lockdown was there, post the lifting of the lockdown, we actually went. They also visited us. The new opportunities which we are looking into, we again when made we took sufficient care, but at the same point of time, we made a point that we want to meet, in person. This may or may not hold true, but as at this point of time, when you meet in person is different from doing a video call or any other calls. So if I say three points which we look into is that the skin in the game, the opportunity, the scalability, and the growth which can happen, and the intangible part. The intangible part is, are we able to relate with the founder, his aim, his vision, and the ecosystem in which he's operating in.
So we talked about the pet care space where we the retail space, e-commerce space, the genomic space. How we bind all the in portfolio investments together. And Auxano, over the past 4 years, we've done over 15 investments, and many more are there in our pipeline as of now. So, how has the investment thesis from the first investment to now has evolved? I know you've covered the part wherein we've come to a point where we want to take, the discussion to three touch points and, keeping it fairly simple. But, as an investor, what are the core matrices that we, evaluated at that point of time vis-a-vis what we look at now as the core thesis of Auxano?
See, one of the thing was that which so we don't invest money in an addition stage that is given at least as of now. So we invest money only after certain revenue has been generated, and then we're looking for growth capital. So as we look at the growth capital, we one of the things which we look into deeply is that what is the how much for what time period will the capital raise run? It's very important. Will What is the burn ratio? Is it growth at all cost? How is it happening? We one of the metrics which we like or which we want to understand is expense incurred per rupees, income earned per rupee spent. So we don't want a case wherein for earning a rupee you're blowing up a whole lot of amount, and then or lack of capital you blow up. So this is one important metric which is there. The other part of the metric is that when we look into, as we have a diversified portfolio, what are the common things which are what the cash flow which comes into place? What is a this when you look at, is it cyclical or is it secular? Is it does it require a lot of working capital, or or it's basically an asset light kind of a model? Other matrices which is common, which we typically is there, the LTV, the CAQ, and a whole lot of things. Now, one of the things which we also do is that we have this, monthly quick dip calls, which in the very first week, not lasting less than 10 minutes to help understand where it is what. So this basically, what happens in some of these calls is that it also gives us an idea where it is going. It also gives an idea in the sense that, what are the budgets, is their plan, what are the targets which are made, or are we there in place or not. So we don't get surprised at the end of the quarter, because, and that is where we expect, right when we invest in the company, that these are the informations which will be required on a regular constant basis. So this also helps the founders and the entity to be on its toes, and also to know to if any action plan or any revisit needs to be done. It happens in real time, and not at a very later date. So if you ask me, it's a very elementary the basic stuff which we ask for. We don't ask for too many things, you know. So we want the entity to grow, entity to make money. The same point of time, we also need an exit, between third and fifth and the fifth year for our investors, from that perspective, because we enter at post seed stage, and at Series A, or we can exit, nothing like it.
So, sir, we've discussed in detail about what is it that we review, what is it that we look at when we are reviewing an opportunity. So, let's talk about what is it that we bring to the game in terms of the USP. So, how do you believe that Auxano differentiates itself as an investor?
Fine. As we said, since we like process a lot, we look into the processes a lot. So that is one thing. So be it, so before we enter the company, we do the due diligence. So many times when you do the due diligence, basically the secretary level or the financial level or the legal level, there could be some points which was missed earlier, which was missed out. That is something which one can look into. So when you do that hygiene check, the company knows what it is missing out or what it needs to spruce up. So when the next round comes in, or the governance becomes rock solid, the hygiene is there. So typically, one of the flags, while valuation, that is taken out. Other point which we do is, though we do not enter deeply into the day-to-day operations, we always tell them that we are only a call away or a meet away, to for them to share your thought process, have us as the sounding board. Plus, in our advisory board, we have experienced marketing professionals like Lloyd Matthias, or for that matter, for tech, we have Anupam, who is based in Europe, and very live with the ecosystem happening across the globe. Then, for marketing, we have Mayank, is based again in London. So globally, whatever is happening, we are not immune to the experiences or the inputs which can happen. So the board also, definitely gives inputs. And besides that, so we talked about, elementary things. We talked about, governance. We talked about sounding board. We talked about connects as and where required. And since we also have a wealth management vertical works differently, we can always tap into, uh, those investors or our clients who can also, give a, uh, let's say, point or note about the industrial sector which we are looking and referring into. So these are, some of the things which we actually, look into. And again, we have also done follow-on capital for at least in more than 40% of our investment. So that's again very positive, if I look from a point of view, as a as a investee, as a company who will need follow-on capital.
That's amazing to know. We've been hearing that, and we've been seeing also that a lot of things are happening, in terms of our future plans. So, we would like you to highlight some of the plans that Auxano has, and, the team is plans to spearhead in them in the next 2 to 3 years.
See, keeping things simple is the most important thing. So when we talk about plans, obviously it's about you know going for a bigger fundraise, and let me not tell the amount, but it's obviously in three digits plus. And we have got commitments as we speak. When we did soft perusal of it. So, and it's great to have team like you, Karan, and Swadha, along with you know with Ashish also with leading, and Shubham being there to handle the compliance. So from that perspective, it's a team there, and then obviously the fundraise happening. And besides that, you know, looking to deepen our, I would say, you know, our investing opportunities into sectors which we believe can create more opportunities for wealth. But at the core of it, what we will remain is we will continue to have the inquisitiveness of a 12-year-old kid, and we'd like to keep things simple. We'd like to exit between 3 to 5 years for the investments, so that the investors also can take private capital. At the same point of time, we'll also want to double down our investments, through new fundraisers in our industry companies and portfolio companies. And our past records does reflect that we have done that. So that's it. Like you never forget. Sachin did not forget to play say straight drive for the last 24 years. At the same point of time, he checked his favorite, you know, cover drive when he scored a double century against Australia. So knowing your strength and accepting your weaknesses, and then playing within what you know and what you don't know is very important, and that's what we would do and continue to.
That's pretty insightful, sir. So, but now we'd like to have a macro view that you have of the industry per se. So, what do you believe are the current challenges within the Indian ecosystem of the venture capital space?
So the thing is that the most important thing is that it's a pretty volatile and fluid. So you talk about roaches, you talk about dinosaurs, you talk about bamboos, you talk about weeds. It's all is important. All has its role to play depending upon the situation. So it is all situational play which is happening. So what is a challenge today, is an opportunity tomorrow, and what is an opportunity can be a challenge. So having said that, not to look too deep into the future, the only thing which I would say is that uh, getting business the investing proposals which we would want to look into within the framework which we have, and because the way we set it up is something which is difficult. But at the same point of time, it is also heartening to see that the the founders or the companies are also willing to go the extra mile to to to, to ensure that they have these systems in place or want to have these systems in place. From a very macro perspective, with the last few months, the whole ecosystem has thrown up a whole lot of opportunities. So, which of the opportunities which would be the most beneficial can be well known only in hindsight. But I think the processes which we have in place should help us to overcome that challenges and get what we want. So we don't want to operate out of FOMO or fear of missing out. We don't want to do that, and we don't want to enter into that game. We only want to enter, what we think we understand. So in the early stage, also, we didn't invest in a company wherein it was pre-revenue. Though at the back of the mind, we think we knew that this will be good opportunity. Yeah, we did enter post-revenue, but giving a higher valuation. But having said that, it was a process which had us to do that. At the same point of time, we have also not taken opportunities wherein it did not comply, with the playbook which we have, and it has also proved to be beneficial to us, from that perspective. So net, the VC space is changing, the PE space is changing. There's a lot of money which is there, but having said at the same time, too much is chasing too few, and getting the right opportunities and the ability to invest in the right opportunities is the challenge.
So, we had an interesting 2020 as an year, and what if you look at hindsight? So, how would you define the year, 2020, and maybe if you can throw some light in terms of the mega trends and what do you see for the coming 2021?
Karan, I am a bad forecaster. I, I, do- I will never, I would never want to enter that. So that is where, doing this, if I tell you investing is a boring business, you say no, there is ups and downs. Absolutely, yes. But at the same point of time, if you are looking at, if you are looking at investing through a process, that is where investing becomes a boring piece. So if you say, 2020 was a year when we did, when we invested in five odd entities and invested more than, what do you say, more than, I think close to little less than 2 million odd, just small amount. But having said that, we got the opportunity to invest and we did that. So I think having a playbook is the answer, and the ability to adapt the playbook in line with the changing requirements is important. So reskilling or learning, having a continuous learning, is the only option one has. So for someone who has got a numbers background and having the looking to put in a something which has got deeply genetics, requires uh, to follow elementary stuff, and I think that's what we continue to do, and I think that's the thing which we should continue to do, because irrespective of the challenges which come, if you know the structure, so making a building, you need a strong structure. The processes, or maybe the components which make could change, but the rules to make does not change much. And I think, and I believe that having a playbook and following that to the T is important. But having said that, also trust your gut. So you should always give some weightage to your gut. Besides, but gut is not everything. Processes are the most important part.
So I think that that's kind of brings us to the end of our first podcast, and we thank you for your valuable insight that has helped us understand the functioning of the Indian startup ecosystem, and also how your learnings as an entrepreneur and investor has evolved the growth curve for Auxano itself.
Thank you, so it was a pleasure learning from you.
So, thanks, Sudha. Thanks, Karan. Thanks for, together as a team, we have been doing a whole lot of things. We have been setting processes. We have been going forward. So let the journey continue. Cheers.
Cheers, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in. For more Auxano Bytes episodes, you can head to www.auxano.in/blogs. You can also follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube for more updates and insights.